She watched him when he thought she wasn't looking. The quiet strength. The sadness he carried like a scar. On the third morning, the sound of an axe stopped suddenly. Silas burst through the door, face hard. "Get in the cellar, now." She obeyed without question. 10 minutes later, boots crunched outside. 3 men entered without knocking. Lawmen in appearance only. Cold eyes. One wore a red sash at his waist. "We're looking for a woman," the leader said. "I live alone," Silas replied. They searched. They threatened. They smelled lavender and fresh bread. Silas stood his ground. Eventually, they left, but Silas knew better. "They'll wait," he said after pulling Adeline from the cellar. "We leave tonight." They abandoned the mule and climbed into the high pass under moonlight. Snow swallowed their tracks. The cold was merciless. By dawn, they reached the summit. Wind screamed like a living thing. Silas led them into an abandoned mining drift to rest. "Why are you doing this?" Adeline asked softly. Silas stared at the stone wall. "I had a wife once," he said. "Men with money burned my house." The law laughed. He met her eyes. "I don't run anymore." They moved again, descending into a narrow canyon called the Throat. Ice lined the walls. A frozen creek ran beneath their feet. A rifle cracked. Bullets shattered stone. "They're on the ridge," Silas shouted. They ran. They dove behind boulders as gunfire echoed. Silas shot back, dropping one man. Then another appeared behind them. Silas threw his knife. The man screamed. A second shot rang out. Silas fell. "Silas!" Adeline screamed. Blood spread fast across the snow. She grabbed the rifle and fired. The outlaw dropped. Silas gasped, fading. She dragged him toward a frozen waterfall, hiding behind the ice. She pressed cloth to the wound. "We have to burn it," Silas whispered. She did. Outside, Rock's voice echoed. Adeline stepped out alone. She shattered the ice beneath him. Rock vanished into the freezing river. Silence returned. Adeline crawled back, wrapped herself around Silas, and whispered until he breathed again. They were not safe yet, but they were alive. The mountains did not care who was innocent or guilty. They only cared who was strong enough to survive. Silas Blackwood drifted in and out of darkness as Adeline dragged him through the snow. His weight was crushing, but she refused to stop. She broke pine branches and tied them with strips torn from her dress, forming a rough sled. She laid him on it and pulled with everything she had left. Her boots split apart by the second day. She wrapped her feet in cloth. She set snares like Silas had shown her and caught rabbits. She melted snow and fed him broth, spoon by spoon, whispering his name whenever his breathing slowed. "Stay with me," she kept saying. "You didn't save me, so you could die now." On the 4th day, the mountains finally opened. Below them lay Silverton. Smoke rose from chimneys. Bells rang. People moved through the streets like the world was still normal. Adeline cried as she dragged the sled into town. Men stopped. Women stared. A woman in rags pulling a giant man wrapped in blood-soaked hides was not something Silverton had seen before. She collapsed in front of the sheriff's office. The door flew open. A man rushed out, his face going white when he saw the body on the sled. "Silas," he breathed. Sheriff Tom Blackwood dropped to his knees, checking for a pulse. "He's alive!" Tom shouted. "Get the doctor!" Now. He turned to the woman on the ground. "Who are you?" he asked gently. Adeline lifted her head. Her face was raw and hollow, but her eyes burned. "My name is Adeline Sterling," she said, "and I have come to collect a debt." Silas lived. The bullet had missed his heart by inches. The cauterized wound saved him, though his recovery was slow and painful. Adeline never left his side. 3 weeks later, the courthouse in Silverton overflowed. People came from miles away. They had heard the story. The mountain man, the fugitive wife, the dollar that bought destiny. Bogard Sterling sat at the front, clean and confident, dressed like a man who had never feared consequences. Silas stood at the back beside his brother, his arm in a sling, his posture straight despite the pain. "Call the defendant," the judge ordered. The doors opened. Adeline entered wearing a simple blue dress. A black veil covered her face. She walked to the stand without shaking. "How do you plead?" the judge asked. "Not guilty," she said, clearly. Beauregard's lawyers sneered, calling her unstable, hysterical, dangerous. Adeline lifted the veil. Gasps filled the room. She told the truth. Silas stepped forward and placed Calloway's ledger on the bench. Payments, names, proof. The jury did not leave their seats. "Guilty," the foreman said. Beauregard screamed as he was dragged away. Outside, snow fell gently. "You're free," Silas said quietly. Adeline looked at the town, the wealth waiting for her, the life she could reclaim. Then she looked at the mountains. She took out a battered silver dollar and pressed it into Silas's hand. "I want to buy something," she said softly. "What can you buy for $1?" he asked. "A partner," she replied. Silas closed his fingers around the coin. Sold. They rode back into the high country together, and the mountains kept their secret.